Hi, I'm Ben, 2D animator and co-creator of Callipeg, and today we review your monsters and creatures animation. There is one Callipeg animation challenge every month, announced on YouTube, Instagram and TikTok. Let's start with this animation from Pjoe. A really nice animation because it's a whole sequence, and it's a very clean animation with colors and everything. I really like the attention to details, like here, with the hair. The hand movement is also really nice. I really like the switch here between the two positions of hand. And the line work is also interesting, with thick lines and thin lines. The monster is a challenge in itself, with a lot of tentacles, and you decided to use them as legs, so it will become straight up, like this, roll like feet, and push like this. That kind of shot can be a bit chaotic, because there is a lot to see. Here there could be some confusion between that tentacle and that one, because when it stretches, here, the eye can interpret it as that one. I don't know if that's really clear, but it's a bit difficult to know what leg is straightening up. So when watching the animation, there is kind of a pop in the legs. The up and down movement might be a little bit clunky also. So here it goes forward and then up and then slows down and up again. There is kind of a mechanical thing here, which makes the monster animation a bit less smooth than the kid animation. But that's just a detail. The animation works pretty well as it is. The expression of the kid is really nice. The hair might miss a bit of volume between here and here. It seems a bit too shallow here. And here there is a lot more volume in that part. There is a bit of a delay between their expressions, which is good. Here you can see the kid closing his eyes right after the monster. So it's not at the same time, which is nice. Some flash frames here, really simple, just a few arcs. I like the art style here also, because you have lines on the backgrounds and on the characters. So there is not a big difference between the style of character and the style of background, which can be the case often. The shape of the cat, really nice like this. This character has a simple boiling line, so a few images to make it a bit lively, and a very simple lip sync. What I would tell for the lip sync is to move also the jaw, so when the mouth is more open, you can open it a bit more like this. It's important to have the bottom of the face moving just a bit to show that opening the mouth has an effect on the rest of the jaw. But that's frankly a very nice sequence. The work of Amelia animation. It's a great character design with simple shapes. We can basically divide it like this. Triangle here, cylinder, and a big shape like this. Adding a simple shape like this blue rectangle adds some depth in the animation without having to draw a complete background, because the character is going over the shape and a bit outside of it, so it seems more close to us. Regarding the animation itself, we can see here that this movement has an impact on the mouth. We can see that you drew the jaw again to make it move. Same for the nose here. So it's not just that part of the nose moving, it's an entire ecosystem of shapes. Here it's basically a bouncing ball, because everything is basically a bouncing ball. We can see a nice stretch, a great squash like that, and following arcs like this. And the arcs are represented by that line here. That's a tiny detail, but I would say that the size of the eye is becoming smaller. That here seems more than that here, but that's a tiny model detail. Very simple shape here for the eyebrow, going from that to that. And then it's a movement going up of the shoulders first, then the neck. It goes here, you can feel the energy going up there with the movement here, and then it releases here, there, and there. So it's a great flow of energy going like this to here and then going back. It's not always easy to make a perfect loop, and that kind of challenge can be a nice way to practice that kind of loop. Animation from Mografic with a monster in the lake, that's also an animation loop. And I think you can get some exercises from that, like animating a leaf, which is a great way to learn about timing and also the arcs that your animation has to follow. There is a bit of a stretch, then it goes fast, it slows down, there is a loop like this, fast, slows down, a bit of a volume work here, so you have to define what's behind, what's in front. The volume seems to change a bit too much here, I think, or it could be that we don't feel that it goes a bit behind, because there is no perspective on the lake, so it's difficult to know what's here and what's here, and the movement between the two. I would say that it would be nice to already have some waves, even in the first frame, because here it seems to pop without any impact on the water. So here you can have a bit of a wave work like this, maybe going that way, just to show that an action has consequences. Here it's a bit strange because it seems to be a hard surface. So it seems a bit strange that the creature is able to push on the water itself and the hands are not moving at all. But I like the way it comes out of the water and that effect also, like a texture of a flowing water. Even though it could be a bit more detailed, like when it's here, it could be with some volume like that. So it's not a texture going behind, but something being over. So we can feel it drop, just like you do here. And here it's pretty well done. I think the arc is a bit too like this, and it could be more like this, with the arms getting a bit far. So I think here that hand could be here. Here I think the volume of the head is moving a bit, so we don't really feel like a volume like this. We feel it really as a shape. So the eyes here, I think, could be more here to show the roundness of the head. And also it seems a bit mechanical, so you could, for example, make an animation like this, because for now it's more like really even. So you could also feel a bit more, even if there is no eyebrows, you can feel a bit more of the surprise in the expression. Here it's subtle, but you make an anticipation, which is nice. And the hands are going before the rest of the body. So it's really subtle, but it works. And here we could also make some waves that will just disappear with time. And last detail, the bubbles should pop a bit more, because for now they are popping from the bottom, from there. And I think it could really pop more like this. Not going away from the bottom and then exploding, but really just like this, okay, going bigger and then pop. And I also like that the borders are a bit messy and that the leaf is going from outside of it to create that depth effect. Animation from Abbas Alhuwaizi. It's also a monster inspired by the creator of the Black Lagoon. I think that's the correct title. I like the settings of your animation. The light of the TV is making a nice shape in which the monster can be clear and visible. You have 3 different parts to focus on. Here, here, and here. So it's a very clear composition, we know where to watch. I think that the animation is a bit mechanical still. We don't really feel that it's pushing on the hands, because it's one single drawing, and then the head is just going up. I understand why it's very mechanical, because it's like a in a cartoonish way, but it would be also nice to have the fingers moving just a bit, so you can understand that it's pushing. Also there, I would add some images between this and this. So we can just add a bit of an ease out, like that, and a bit of an ease in here. So we can feel a bit more of the animation and not just popping from one pose to the other. I think it's important to draw the entire head again, particularly in that kind of situation, where even the eye is not moving. If you draw everything again, it will add life to your animation, because everything will be moving when something is moving. And here again, you can add a bit of a ease in, just a few images to smooth your animation. The expression in itself is nice. That's what I would advise for this shot. Now the work of Charlene Egiles. I think that the tail is moving a bit too much. Here, I understand the way you want to add some waves, but I think it's a bit too chaotic. And here we can also see the leg that is behind, just a small mistake. I think you could add some wave movement, but really having just a wave like that. And that should be always in the same position. Here it's moving back and forth. So that part here, in that animation, should be pretty still. And that's the ball over here that should move more. I think here there is not enough time to see the movement of the hand well. That pose here is not long enough. And it goes straight to much farther away. So we can just see a bit of the touching here for 2 frames. And then it goes back. So I would put that a bit more frames and then add an ease out. The shape of the head is really nice. We can really feel the depth, and that's behind this. We can see some changes in the model itself, so in the volume, specifically here. So that here is getting way bigger here, and also there it's bigger than here. So that head here with the eye under the nose is very different than this one with the eye at the same line as the nose, because there is no tilt like this. It's like that, but the relation between eye and nose is changing. You also have changes in the space between eyes. So here it's close, and here it's really far away. and it goes back to close here. That's of course the difficulty of 2D animation. You have to stay on model, and it's hard for everybody, I guess. But that's what I focus on during the tie down process. So after making my rough animation and everything is good in the movement, I will make a layer over it and start and draw the tiny details and flip and see how the shapes are moving in the right relation with one another. And if not, I fix it. But it's a pretty long process. And regarding the spider character, I think it's a bit more consistent. The boiling line is maybe a bit too exaggerated because it moves a lot, and there is also some movement on the floor. So here we can see the legs just sliding. I don't think everything would be sliding like that. It could be the feet going up and then back, but not sliding like this all at the same time. That pose here is really nice. And I like the way the hat is a bit in the front, just over one ear. The face expression is really nicely done. We can feel the stress and the surprise. There is a nice anticipation here. Maybe the head is becoming a bit small here, but I think that animation on the right is more consistent than the one on the left. I like the background sketch here, really lively. Now you're used to walk cycles, so it works pretty well. I just think that the ghost could have a bit more consistent shoulders, because here it goes up and down a bit too much. And also there's no arms movement during the walk. So it could be like this, like a zombie in a way, but then it could be more consistent, always up like that. Maybe a bit of up and down like this, but that here to me is a bit too much. So either you go like that, like you do on other characters, really like this, or you animate it like this and you stay consistent with just a bit of a up and down movement, I think. But it's once again a pretty solid sequence. Animation from Nido Estudio. It's a great idea. We can really feel the use of transformation and not individual drawings. But I think here, for example, it makes the character really too stiff. You could add some eye movement so we can know that he's looking right here. You could have some other poses where he's more like that. You could feel some balance in the movement if, for example, going there could be a bit more like this and like that. So moving the arms to find the correct balance. When he's going up, it could be like touching the board and looking at it, or even looking to the bottom to watch here. And here it's difficult to see the impact of the fall because it's slowing down too much. So here, okay. Here it's already slowing down, we don't know why. So I think you could go directly here and avoiding that pose. And here we don't feel a big smash. I think it could be like this. So pose 1, pose 2, and then 3 here, and basically 4 just being like that, but at the same place on the floor. So there is no ease-in, it's a smash. Because here, the arms and legs are already broken before the head is even on the floor. So where was the impact? And also it's a bit too separated all of a sudden. I think we could add a pose here and here, maybe feeling a bit of the crack, like when the bones are cracking and so on. Also, I think they are going just too straight and too evenly. It's really like a star. So that could go here, and that could go there, and fall here, for example. You could add some variations in the way the arms and legs are just going away. Also, in relation to the impacts, we don't see any impact here. We can see the impact with the explosion in a way, but we never see the board on the head. So we can't feel the impact if the impact is not in the animation. So I would advise to add a frame where there is the board like that, and where you can see the character like this, so the eye can really see the impact and feel the impact, because it will exist in the frames. And also still regarding the impacts, I think you could have like that, so a bit of a bounce, because here it's just on the floor and that's it. There is no bounce, there is no movement. And it could also be more like that, because here it seems to be still in a straight position. We don't feel that it's on the floor. So that's it. I hope this will help for your future animation. Animation from Jeremy Haim. I think the main problem here is about the model of the character, so it's more of a drawing issue. You can see here, I understand that it's supposed to be sleeping, I guess, but the model is too different from one frame to the other. So the best way would be to draw like that, and on the other frames, having the same floor line, and just going bigger like that, then like this. And here it's not even really perfect, but really having the same floor line to feel only the movement of the breath. Because here it's floating, and you go from lines with many angles to way more rounder lines. Once again, that's what's difficult in 2D animation, having the correct model and keeping it consistent all the way. That pose here is pretty good. We can really feel the volume of it, but then there is too much differences between two poses. Between here, too much is happening. So I think there could be a pose like that, where you can see the arm, maybe a bit of the leg going up. The head is also not the same size. You can see here the head is way smaller, and here it's even smaller. So that's really what you have to focus on when you do the tie down. So you make your rough animation, and then you do your tie down, where you carefully see what's working and what's not working with the character model and shapes. The leg is also changing a lot, going from a long foot to a smaller one. And also it's just sliding, but it has to be the support of the character. So it has to be at the same place. There is some line confusion here. We don't know what's behind and what's in front, so it's better to have a clear indication, like this for example. What could help you is also to make some layout poses, so a few poses, like key poses in a way, which are completely like the model you want. And then you go from these poses to the rest of your animation. That pose here is interesting, but you could exaggerate it. For example, having something like this, having more energy in your line of action. And here you can also exaggerate it a bit more, just to make kind of an anticipation before jumping. And I don't really understand if it's a new shot or not, because the trees are telling me that it's the same shot, but first is going towards us like that, and in the next frame is going to the left. So I think here it should be just going like this, not having that pose here, and then starting his run cycle. And that pose is really effective. There is just a few mistakes on the volume here, and that should not be touching the grass here, because it's also a confusion in the line. Lines shouldn't be touching. Lines shouldn't be touching. Here it's a bit too still also. I think it would be nice to have the shape moving back and forth, and also the background moving, but here it's only the background moving. So it's like he's just still in space and the background is moving. We don't feel him like this, like a gorilla, for example, running. Here, about the composition, you should not have the character right at the bottom on the frame. You should have some space at the bottom, just to breathe a little bit. So the character should be here, for example, like this. Nothing should be touching the borders of the frames. And here it's going up, so we don't really understand why. I can understand what you did here about the running, really having one part like this and the other part following. So I can understand that you might have used some references from Animal Running, but I also think that you animated straight ahead. So pose 1, pose 2, pose 3, pose 4, and not key poses and then breakdowns and then in-betweens. So we can really feel the character moving too much between frames, like I said earlier. But that, for example, is nice. You can understand that the leg is going over the arm. So there are some interesting posing. The main thing you would have to practice is drawing, like having some solid drawings along the way, and also working in key poses first. Here it could be exaggerated a bit more also, going back like this before screaming. So just exaggerating a bit more. It's a pretty ambitious animation because it's a lot to do. Animating an animal running, screaming, jumping, it's a lot. So it's nice to have kept that challenge to the final shot, and I hope this will help for your future animation. Animation from Antoine Lacocoste. I really like the volume of your animation. We can really feel all the expressions of the character. We can feel the nice 3D shapes, and it's a nice way to make animation more lively, is to make some head tilts. Basically here, we see the head kind of a 3/4, then going back, then moving from right to left. And we can see that every pose is a new pose. There is never a drawing that is reused. And I really like the shapes you added there, the volume here. The FX of the fire is also nicely done. And what's important in animation is how your character is feeling. So what is he or she thinking? What decision is made? What action is made? And what are the consequences of that action? You can really feel the curiosity. Thinking process, do I go there or not? Decide to go there, and then consequences. There's also a really nice smear frame here. So a smear frame is where you see kind of the motion blur of the animation, but you have to draw it by hand, of course. And you can see the deformation of the shapes, the multiplications of the eyes here, for example, or the eye, singular. You can see also tilt up in the head. Think of it like a volume that you can tilt anywhere you want. And that's a great exercise to understand the volume and how to move a character in 3D, even if it's in 2D. The tentacles are also a great way to work on the arcs, going from straight lines to smooth to curves like this. That expression is just incredible. So that's a really nice animation with many things in it. Animation from Aqua Lemon. I like the sketchiness of the lines. Here there could be also some volume issues. There it seems a bit too flat. And also the length of it is not the same between here, here, here. So I think it's a bit too small at some point. The anticipation here is nice, but it should be there, I think. Also, there is not enough space in the page itself. So there could be more empty space over it, under it, just to be able to feel a bit more of the shape. And that here could also be more exaggerated, why not? Even like this, really going in the extreme, like the character of Venom, for example. There could be a drag here, so like this, and then like that, to feel a bit more of the movement and the delay between the two movements. Also here, issue in the model, you can see that the proportions are not the same, so it should be here basically to be around the same size. Like in many animation I see and in many animation I do, there should be a bit more of exaggeration, but it's a nice idea and a nice design for the creature. Animation by Pjoe and MacMillan. Pretty impressive animation here, a lot of scale differences between the characters. We can feel the volume on the character, the tilt on the head. We can see the preparation like an anticipation on the hand, being already in the movement to then slide like that. That pose here is really nice. I know that in the previous parts of this video I told about not going to the borders of the frames, but sometimes it can work if you have a camera movement to make the feeling of the camera is searching for the character. So here the camera is not completely on the character because it's moving too fast. So here it seems to work. Here there is a bit of a squash and stretch, interesting. That pose is a bit confused maybe because we go from that to this, which seems much of a one shape, but also it seems to work in the arc. But I would just have made it like that, maybe. I really like the contrast in the color, so you can really feel the intensity of the laser beam. That's also a great way to feel the scale of the character. And here, there is a lot of empty space, so you can really understand the composition. Two simple shapes within an empty space. I didn't really feel it watching the animation, but it's a really cartoonish animation with a lot of deformation. Here there is a big stretch. We can also see the scale difference. So it's really going into perspective, even if we don't see any background to set a perspective, we feel that is going behind. And I really like the impact of the character. So here is on the floor, being still stretched by the fall. Then he has to bend the knees because the energy of the fall is stopped by the floor, and then it has to go somewhere. And then it stretches back. So it's a really nice landing. And during this time, the tentacle is still moving for the next part of the action. So it's following arcs. When the character is moving, the tentacle is not moving too much. That's the staging of the animation, very important part. So you are not lost in what you see. So here it's moving a lot, moving a bit, moving a lot, not moving. A great way to show that you can handle volume in your 2D animation is to make a character go from front to back. So really rotating like that. I love that pose here. The volume is so well done. Simple shapes as always, but with some details like that. And if you only see that frame, everything is really clear. And when the creature is moving, the character is not moving, or not a lot. That's a really great animation shot because it's only one shot, a very long one with a lot of camera movement and characters going back and forth, but it's only one shot. Animation from Tenny Gem, with a bit of a stretch here, watching left and right. You can feel, even if it's a simple shape, that is moving in perspective, with some volume. Here following some arcs, having some volume like this, having some dragging. It's a very nice example of how a simple animation, like a shape going up and down, can be really well done. Then you have an anticipation like this, stretching. The head is going from front like that to tilted up like this. So all the volume 3D shapes principle are applied here. And also a nice part of this participation from Tenny Gem is the use of this animation as a Halloween decoration with a video projector. That's a very nice and unique way to use your animation. Animation from Jean-Francois Ramazani, which is a pretty complex one with many different shots. I like how he's not really impressed by the monsters. I think the shape of the shoulders moves maybe a bit too much. It goes from round like that to very angular like that. So there's a bit of volume issues, I guess. I really like the movement, the camera movement here. Very nice use of stretching, squashing. That anticipation here is really well done. I wonder if that is not maybe too fast? I don't know. Maybe it's nice for the impact. Nice shape language here. I like how he's switching from one creature to the other and preparing. That smear frame is really nice. I didn't really notice it when watching the animation with speed, but it's really exaggerated. That shot is really good. Simple shapes, nice composition, and this makes a really good transition. There is a great use of color also, contrast between white here, the blue everywhere else. Also regarding the cuts between shots, your eye is here, and on the next shot, it's still here. So it's really clear to see what's happening. And the energy field is really well done also, with some light strokes, a star-like shape. The creature is just bouncing like this on the floor, with very simple shape, and during that time, our character is also a simple shape, not moving. So I think it's a great example of staging, of animation, of simple shapes, of shot composition. It's a really cool action sequence. And that's it for this review of your Monsters and Creatures Callipeg animation. I hope you enjoyed it and that the advices are useful to you. Callipeg is your 2D animation software for iPad, Android tablets and iPhone. Thanks a lot for watching this video. See you in the next one and start animating anywhere with Callipeg.